Welcome back to Insider's Perspective, where we discuss retirement, investing, debt, and all sorts of other topics regarding financial literacy. In today's episode, we look at a guide to managing personal finances during the COVID-19 crisis. So, saving and managing money is difficult on any normal circumstance, but put a global pandemic in there, and that makes it a whole lot more challenging. Chances are you have many questions that you keep asking yourself about the uncertainty going on and what does that mean for your finances. Should I be investing right now? Should I be saving? And it's actually many people have began saving during this pandemic. The saving rate has been unlike anything seen before from this table. The first one we're going to look at right now is what's the best way to budget money during the coronavirus? If you've unfortunately been laid off or for some reason cannot work, maybe you're sick, you need to take a look at what you have right now. Take stock of what you have. Look at your savings. Look at your other income sources, and also look at your outgoing expenses. So hopefully, you could be spending less and be able to maybe use part of that emergency fund right now. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free. There are creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you, so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Now, if you're new to budgeting, there are many softwares out there. You can use Google Sheets. Google Sheets, you could plug in the numbers that's positive and numbers that are negative, add it up, do averages for you, all sorts of other features in there for finances. It's free to use. You can use it on multiple devices. You can share it out with others if you want someone you trust to help you go through it. So definitely use some software out there to help you budget, and that's what's key right now is be disciplined and figure out what your expenses are and what your income coming in, and find ways to make sure your income is greater than your expenses. Our next topic is how do I know if I'm overspending in my financial position? This goes back if you're using some software. It can show you what your budgets look like in a certain time period, and see if you're spending more right now, if you're spending less, and other categories to help you relocate those funds and make sure that you're putting yourself in a better spot. One helpful way to budget is set a maximum dollar amount of income for each of your spending categories, such as food, transportation, debt, and savings. Another form is the 50-30-20 method. Now, this strategy, you lump a variety of expenses into one of three categories: fixed expenses, variable expenses, and savings. Now, the goal of this is 50% of your take-home pay should go on necessities and fixed costs, such as housing, food, insurance, and debt payments. You spend 30% on variable expenses, such as entertainment and clothes. Now, these are nice to have, but they're not essential. And you spend the remaining 20% on financial goals, such as emergency savings and retirement. Now, you may be asking yourself, this sounds like the opposite of paying yourself first. Now, it's important to understand that there's also a little bit different circumstances occurring right now due to the pandemic, and that's going to influence and what your savings should be like, and it really comes down to what fits best for you. Our next category is what should I do about my credit card debt during the pandemic? So right now you want to look at your credit card agreements and see what the rules are and what you can do to get out of this debt. You may also be able to apply for a balance transfer credit card with no interest on new purchases. So for the next 18 to 21 months, you could have 0% APR, and I could save money during this time. Our next topic is, how can I get help paying my bills during COVID-19 crisis? If you're having troubles paying your bills right now, you want to speak to your lenders, credit card issuers, insurers, utility companies, and find out what kind of relief they can give you. It may also be a good idea to get a mortgage or refinance, so you can change up your interest rates, your time period, and just to make sure that you're putting yourself the best possible way, so when this pandemic does end, you'll be at a good spot to return to life back to normal. Now, if you're thinking about buying a home during the coronavirus outbreak, that depends on how you are doing financially right now. If you're at a good spot, home mortgage interest rates are at an all-time low, historic lows for a 30-year fix, so it might be a good idea for you. If you're thinking about your dream home, this may be the time period for it. But just take some time and really analyze your situation to make sure that you have stable income coming in and that you be able to pay off the necessary expenses per month to ensure that you keep your house. Our next topic is it a good idea to keep my emergency savings in the bank? Yes, many banks, or at least you should be using a bank that is FDIC insured. We'll get into what that means, but basically it means that protects you up against loss up to $250,000 per depositor. So if the bank goes under, there's insurance built in. In addition, although it's very low, you do get interest money if you put money into the bank. So if you put in a savings account, you could be gaining some interest on that funds that could begin to accumulate in your savings. Now, again, they're very low, but it's still something. We'll continue on to our next question. Should I continue investing money for retirement during the pandemic? This again, look at where you are standing, this podcast is coming a little later after when it was written, this article I'm reading, but many of the companies have been able to bounce back and actually have done really well during the pandemic, such as the platforms that have been able to do well online. So maybe it is a good idea for you if you're in a good spot. It's a good idea to invest a minimum of 10 to 15% of your gross income for retirement every month. And this goes into dollar cost averaging. We'll get into this where you allocate a certain amount on a certain period of time. So maybe at the end of the month, you put $100 into your savings account or investing account, your brokerage account, and traditionally, it's a much stabler form of investing than doing lump sum. But if you're doing a retirement account, make sure you don't need those funds until you actually retire, or else there's a penalty, early withdrawal penalty. That's about 10%. So make sure the funds you're putting away for retirement are also funds you don't need. That's going to wrap up today's episode about COVID-19 and personal finances during this time period. Hope you enjoyed that. Make sure you check out our other episodes and
welcome back, everybody, to another
episode with your personal finances
today.
and want to learn
talking about our first steps in financial literacy.